Hello and welcome to this skating lesson. I'm thrilled to welcome Phil Hersh and Maya Bagriantseva to discuss the outcome of the Kamila Valieva doping case before the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Maya, do you want to start with what the decision was?
I'm sure everybody already knows. They opened their Twitter news agencies that didn't know that she was found guilty, and disqualification is for 4 years, starting from December 21, 25th of December 21, date of the test, basically. So this is the summary of the verdict. It's long, it's for 2 pages, but actually we don't know anything about the medals officially yet because the Court of Arbitration does not award medals. They just disqualified Kamila, and the disqualification is for 4 years, taking away her titles. But we're going to discuss some more news on the way.
Phil, I wanted to discuss this with you because you cover track and field. That's one of your passion sports. And when someone is disqualified in track and field, my understanding is that if someone in the relay were to be doping, the entire relay team would be disqualified. Is that typically what happens in this case?
Well, there was an interesting case at the 2000 Olympics where it turned out that one athlete probably shouldn't have been put on the Olympic team because he had tested positive in 1999. He did not. They kept the medals in the order that they were because he had not appeared in the final. And then another athlete tested positive retroactively, and then Michael Johnson gave back his medal. And so finally, the IOC reallocated the medals, moving everybody up. There is also the possibility, we all know that the 1994 U.S. Figure Skating Championship has a blank for the winner. You can simply vacate first place. I don't suspect that'll happen, but it's within the realm of possibility.
How much pressure could NBC exert on the IOC or the ISU to reignite passion in the Olympics by awarding Team USA the gold medals in prime time, let's say during the opening ceremonies or something like that, to kind of restore?
I can't see it happening in Paris. There's too much going on with Russia to begin with those few Russian athletes who are going to compete. My speculation is that they might award them at the World Figure Skating Championships, either in Montreal or in Boston, given that 2 of the countries involved are from North America.
Do you think it's a cop-out if you are awarding Olympic medals at a World Championships instead of an Olympics to kind of restore,
It's better than getting them in the mail, Dave. A lot of athletes have got, and I mean, you could make a big deal out of it. The impetus to do it at Montreal is that we already know there are going to be no Russian athletes there, so there won't be all of this whining and whatever. And by Boston in 2025, who knows? So I mean, there is some the possibility of a good idea would be to bring them all to Montreal.
It would certainly make those tickets worth a lot of money to be there when they are awarded the gold medal. And
NBC and CBC could work with the ISU and decide we're going to do this in a prime moment. Either during any of the competitions, but a moment when they are broadcasting live in prime time.
Maya, I'm curious from you. I was talking to people that have dealt with Russian athletes and are familiar with the federation. There are kind of 2 schools of thought. They could appeal this decision and potentially have a road back to competing in international sports if they continue to comply with WADA and clean up things there. Or are they going to dig their heels in and let's say Putin has an award ceremony saying we're the real winners? What is kind of your read on that situation? Is Russia getting closer to international sport or further away?
To be honest, nobody knows because it's such a fresh decision. We don't have a lot of reaction yet in Russia. Like none of the big officials has spoken up yet. But in my opinion, it makes Russia closer to international tournaments because the verdict is she is guilty, and it's a very tough verdict. 4 years, that's like the maximum, right? Nobody in Russia expected that. 4 years, no. So she serves her sentence, and officially everybody can move on. Probably, I don't know. Very much depends on how Russia behaves now. Whether there's going to be a separate ceremony awarding real Olympic medals in Russia, or whether they're going to say that, okay, we're done with that, let's move on. we'll see that in the coming days. But at the moment, we hear some reactions like, okay, we still, like the Federation of Russian Figure Skating says that we still consider our athletes, our figure skaters, Olympic champions. But at the same time, we hear, let's say, Alexander Galyamov, who was on that team event, right? And he was there in Beijing. He says, what else we can do? We have to prepare better and hope we can participate in the next Olympics. That's all we have left to do. So the opinions are different. But what I would say is that, again, nobody expected the verdict to be that tough. Not for years. She's a minor. The amount of substance was relatively small, right? I wouldn't say that everybody's in a state of a shock. No, because it's been 2 years for everybody, not only the other teams, but Russian team as well. Lots of things have happened, and the focus has moved on and shifted a bit, let's say a bit, right? So it's not as big as it would have been like 2 years ago. But let's say it's like good news is that finally the verdict is out, it's over, and we can see how everything's going to develop from this type.
The trace amount. Well, I'm curious for you for the trace amount, when you think of it being a trace amount, for me, one of the questions I ask for, does a trace amount mean that they were taking a substance with the intention of concealing it, right? And the fact that it's a trace amount, does that indicate that this is a relatively small miscalculation and random chance and minor error that is what made this public in the first place, that there was, something of an error made by whoever administered the medication? What is your take on that? Because we still have never had an investigation into how the Kamila Valieva got the drug and substance in her system.
I don't know. And I know I'm going to be crucified in the comments after this is out, the video. But to be honest, I still think that there is a chance that Kamila did not know what's happening. And it was not her taking that substance. And everybody says that we just had a quote from Evgeni Medvedeva, who says that she was with Kamila in Beijing, always by her side when all that happened. She was traveling with her to Moscow on the same plane, sitting next to her. And she said that she was in complete state of a shock. And what she says is that when an athlete when he knows that he is doing something illegal, he wouldn't behave like that. I don't know. I really know. We don't know more than we knew yesterday about the substance, about the trace, about how it was administered. We will see probably if the verdict is published in more details. We'll see that, but at the moment, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, how come are people looking at Eteri? There's so much talk in the Russian press about Valieva. Did she want to take this drug? But I would point to Eteri Tutberidze and that staff, which was originally what Thomas Bach was saying at the Olympics. And I would look at the fact that Daniel Grasso went to Hrustalny to train and missed 3 tests in that amount of time. Is there something to look at?
No. We don't know in which amount of time he missed those 3 tests. This is very important. We do not know that.
But we know that it's connected to him in the amount of time that there was at least a test that was missed while he was in Hrustalny, which in the
I know, but I'm trying to stay, we don't know that. He was in States, he was in Italy, he was in different places. And officially, we don't know that some of those flags, some of those tests were missed when he was in Russia. I don't know. As far as I understand, there's a question that there will be another, I wouldn't say case, but investigation on the team around Kamila. But I see that as speculation now. It hasn't been confirmed yet, has it?
Anyway, can I jump in for 1 second?
Yeah.
First of all, I apologize because I'm in a public place and I had been running around the room trying to get it where it's quieter. And
Thank you for your service. Yeah.
Anyway,
we're happy you're with us tonight. Yeah.
First of all, the Court of Arbitration for Sport sometime in the future will issue what's called its reasoned decision, which will have the entire case, all of the evidence, everything that was put forward, and we'll know more. And we may even know more about exactly how much of the drug was found and why it was considered more than a trace amount. So that's not completely determined. The other thing that strikes me about this, they could have found her guilty and given her a slap on the wrist, given her a 3-month suspension, given her a 2-year suspension. They threw the book at her. That really, I'm definitely a little bit surprised by that. And this is supposed to have been decided as a singular case and not in the context of Russia's malfeasances over the past many years in doping. And the fact that they threw the book at her, I really would love to read the entire decision to figure out maybe why that happened.
I would look at two things. I don't know, but I would, I think my questions are, does it have to do with the drug? You mean Andrea Radikon tested positive at 17 years old for Sudafed at the Sydney Olympics. She lost the gold medal, but she was able to continue competing in sport, right? She continued at the next World Championships, won 3 gold medals. Kamila would obviously be disqualified. I wonder if it has to do with that medication. And then also, what about the excuse that Russia gave about, drinking water glass, from her grandfather's water glass thousands of miles away? Would the court potentially find that insulting?
No idea. I mean, it would be speculative for me to answer those questions. Maya, didn't you say that Kamila has posted something on social media?
Yeah, she reacted with the Instagram story. There's a video of her skating, and then there's a song which says they drown my pain. That's all we hear from her, but it's definitely a very tough day for her today. And I hope she's not alone, and I hope there's some people next to her. She's still under 18, and it's a really hard day for her.
She's been skating in Russia for the last 2 years while waiting for the verdict. If
Yep.
Russia were to dig its heels in and say that they don't accept the results, do you think that she could continue to perform with the federation? Really, what is at stake? Because there was a figure skater, if you remember, Sotskova, who tested positive for furosemide, and they have banned her with it for 10 years within Russian figure skating. She is not allowed to coach or perform. Could Valieva face a similar sentence, or would they use her age as a protected person to continue that she still has a career?
First, Kamila is way more famous and way more of a public figure in Russia than Maria. And we cannot compare those cases. Kamila is more like a symbol, probably, already in Russia. But I'm very curious myself how Russia will treat that. So far, we have some sayings from the Putin spokesman, Peskov, saying that probably it's related to politics, and if there is a right to appeal, they should appeal. But the most interesting thing will, elaborate and develop in the coming weeks, not tonight, because tonight is very emotional and everybody's like saying very emotional stuff. We'll see, because officially she's not allowed to appear at any rink which is state funded, at any ice show which is state funded. And we'll see how that happens now, because all Russian rinks, almost all of them, are state funded, and Russian ice shows have state grants, right? State money. So I don't know. I have a feeling that Russia would not step in for Kamila, and they will say, okay, this is the verdict. We consider it unfair, but it is what it is. We are unhappy and we still call them Olympic champions, but I hope they will not have something like, an official award ceremony at the Red Square giving them like our own Olympic medals, because Russian Olympic team is still with no medals, only with the boxes, right? For the sake of Russian sport and its future, I hope they, swallow this pill, no matter how bitter it is.
Well, exactly. I mean, I don't think giving the finger to CAS, the ISU, and the IOC would be a particularly good policy for Russia right now, as they try to get themselves fully reinstated. Whether that happens while the war in Ukraine is going on, I have no idea. And we again, it's sort of an eerie coincidence that this case has lasted 2 years, and the war in Ukraine now is lasted about 2 years. So,
well, Maya,
what I don't like is that we had this verdict only today, this week, and I have a feeling that it was done not to have the 2-year anniversary of all this thing happened, and I wonder why it took so long. I think everybody is very curious why it took so long. What do you have to investigate for 2 years? And hopefully we'll get those answers, but probably not. But this is an interesting question for me.
That's what Evan Bates, the ice dancer who just won in his part of Madison, Chock, just won another U.S. championship. That was one of the things that he said when asked about. He was asked Saturday about the decision impending on Monday, and he said, one thing I would really like is an explanation for why this took so long. He didn't even say any more about, just getting the medals. It was just the frustration. Everybody presumes that somehow or other the Russian Rusada or somebody in Russia managed to keep throwing monkey wrenches into the works to make it drag out and drag out and drag out.
I mean, I would question that. I also want to ask I think that that's a great point, Phil. And I think that some of I've always wondered if the investigation took longer because they were banned from international competition and had less of an incentive to wrap it up, right? They could drag their feet as long as they wanted to because they weren't allowed in competition.
Again, that's all. It's certainly
speculation.
possible. Exactly, but it's certainly it's legitimate speculation.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've always wondered. I think, Maya, I wanted to ask you, how much should we trust these official statements that are coming out with Russia? Everything's very emotional right now. But I remember before the 2018 Olympics, Alexei Yagudin, Tatiana Tarasova, Irina Slutskaya, almost so many of the competitors posted a meme on Instagram and social media, no Russia, no games, no Russia, no games. Well, all of those Russians eventually showed up at the Olympic Games in gray sweatsuits. So how much would you trust what they are saying today based on what the reasoned ration decision will be in response to this case?
I will advise to open the news agency, let's say, in a week. The ISU has just announced that they will have a meeting, a special online meeting, February 7th, discussing the future, the fate of the Olympic team event medals. And I think more reaction will come after that. And very much depends on if Russia really wants to come back and to go back to the international sports arena. If there is an intention to go back, then the reaction will be less emotional, let's call it this way. There will be lots of quotes, and some of them are not nice, and I already see that some of them are very, very emotional and offensive even. But I would ask not to pay too much attention to those who are not in charge of making decisions, because this is, those opinions, they do not count. There are some public figures in the field of Russian figure skating, but that sometimes they say offensive stuff and they have nothing to do with decision-making process.
Has Tutberidze
the saddest part to me, Dave, is that putting Eteri aside, putting the 20 from 2014 on aside, which is hard to do. Russia has given so much to figure skating over the years. It's just a shame, in pairs and dance and what originally in pairs and dance, and then later in men's singles and eventually in women's singles as well. Something is missing without them. And people like Alexei Yagudin, whose statements about gay athletes and other stuff are just heinous. Anything he says, I don't even bother listening to.
Yeah, I agree, especially when Alexei Yagudin was very good friends with Rudy Galindo and still sends him messages on Instagram. If you talk to Rudy, it's a very, confusing public versus private situation. I would wonder, how important is it for the IOC and the ISU to resolve this situation to restore the sport? I mean, figure skating had better attendance at US nationals. It was really low at Canadian nationals. How important is it for the sport in general to kind of move forward?
If I could just say something about what happened here in Columbus, where I am right now at Columbus Airport, flying home to Chicago. The Columbus Organizing Committee did a very good job in selling tickets at reasonable prices and making, Columbus, it's a huge city now. It's over the largest city in Ohio. A lot of people think that's still Cleveland. It's not the case. It's got a gigantic major university here with a football program that commands stunning attention, but Columbus, and a professional hockey team, but Columbus isn't overrun with events. So they made it very easy for people, a family of four could go to this thing for $150. As opposed to $150 a ticket. So I think in terms of increasing attendance, unless the two things would happen: one, for the United States to get a women's superstar, and two, to do more of what they did here and make it financially feasible for people to come. And the Columbus Organizing Committee relentlessly publicized it locally.
So it was a fun night out, like in Kaunas, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even this thing that struck me yesterday, there were two of the biggest football games of the year, the National Football League games of the year were played, and there was still, it wasn't a huge crowd, but there were still they haven't given us attendance numbers, but the whole lower bowl of this arena was basically filled, and I was surprised by that. I was also surprised that, the biggest crowd was for this Saturday night for a very, very mediocre pairs competition, because United States pairs have been very mediocre mostly for years. So, I mean, people, something they had never seen, and they wanted to see it. I don't think for the general public that this shadow hanging over from the Valieva situation was that much of a turnoff to people. I think there were a lot of other things that turn people off, and the United States has always relied on a female superstar to sell the sport.
Why female? That's my question. Sorry to interrupt, Phil, but that's very interesting for Russian audience. Like, why female? Why not male?
It goes back to the. It goes back historically to Dr. Tenley Albright, and then to 1956, and Carol Heiss and Peggy Fleming and Dorothy Hamill. They were always the ice queen. The ice queen thing was always the ice queen, not the ice king. And the United States had Olympic men's champions in this 1960s, and again in 1984 and in 1988 and in 2010 and now in 2022. But it just doesn't draw people. Figure skating is seen as, for lack of a better word, has always been seen by fans as a female sport. Even though the men are doing such astonishing things athletically. Do you agree, Dave?
I do. And you have to realize that, it has to do with television and the fact that Peggy Fleming was the first person who won in color. And then she got a TV special deal right after, where she had 5 TV specials, the same thing as Dorothy Hamill. But I would argue that in Russia, it was about the pairs for decades. But I would say, aren't they about in the business of having a female ice queen right now as well? I mean, look at Kamila Valieva, Evgenia Medvedeva, Alina Zagitova, Anna Shcherbakova, Trusova, Alyona Kosternaya, Elizaveta Tuktamisheva. It seems like Russia enjoys a female ice skating star as well.
Oh yes, it's number one figure skating, not number one by far, and like Channel One, like Peacock in the US, streams mainly female events, women events. Which is not fair to Russian pairs and Russian men, to a lesser extent Russian ice dance, but still, definitely after the era of Lipnitska, Medvedeva, Zagitova, and so on, that's the number one, day in figure skating program.
Well, in the past, when figure skaters have left Eteri, she has posted photos of herself with Russian poems below her by some of the great poets. What poet would be suitable for today, and has she made a statement?
I don't think she would make any statement, because officially she's not mentioned in the verdict. And if I were her advisor, I would have advised not to give any comments and not to be public on the case.
You were at the European Championships. Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin did not do as well as perhaps their coaches and team wanted them to do. Do you think this hurts them going into the World Championships?
What hurts? This verdict?
This verdict, continue to cast a cloud over that ice dance team.
I think that they deserve like a separate biography, a new biography for themselves, and they are Team Georgia now, and they were 8th at the Europeans, so it's not like they're on the podium or something. Give them a chance to, get their foot in the door and show something first. I don't know. Of course, there's an extra. I think there's definitely an extra attention to them. That's for sure, and of course, it will be probably forever. But they're a fresh team, officially Team Georgia again. Let's give them a chance.
Do you think that's true, Phil? Because they were on the Russian Olympic team, and every other member of that Olympic team with Diana and Gleb is being forced to sit out of competition due to this ban, except for them. How is this treated in other sports? Are athletes looked at, as sparingly, especially if they were Russian and they're now banned?
This is very, very, it's a rare situation. I mean, the only thing analogous at all would have been all of those South African athletes banned because of the country's apartheid policies. I mean, we've never had a sort of a country banned for actions like this. So I don't think I have an answer for that question. To go back to your earlier question, though, I think maybe Dostoevsky would be the one you'd quote on this situation.
Crime and Punishment?
What's Raskolnikov doing right now, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the severity of the sanction. That's what struck me more than anything.
What do you think is the reason for that?
I can't tell. I mean, I'd like to see the whole reason opinion before I know that.
But you expected it less, right?
I expected it. I mean, I expected it. I really expected it. I said the other day to some friends, I expected them to find her guilty and give her maybe 3 months. For having been a protected athlete because she was under 16. There's got to be there must be a reason for that, and hopefully we'll find out when they release the longer documentation of the case.
I think the only thing I can think of, I thought that she was going to get 2 years. I thought it would be 2 years and backdated to December 25th, 2021, and I'm pretty consistent with that. The only reason I could think of for it being 4 years is that the Russian Figure Skating Federation continues to be associated with Dr. Shvetsky, who was treating Kamila Valieva at that time rather openly. And he was openly present at competitions. He was openly present in the team box during the Olympics. And then he was in a photo with Tamara Moscovina over the summer. So it's shown that the doctor that gave her this drugs has not been disgraced in any way. And I thought that was a big misstep when Tamara took that
But
picture.
you imply that there was a doctor giving her this drug. We do not know that.
I didn't say he gave her that drug, but I did say that he was treating her at that time, and that there hasn't been a lot of pressure in the Russian media about Dr. Shvetsky. And why is that?
I just saw a link to I'm sorry, Maya. I saw a link to a story where Shvetsky, in a different case, in one of the Seppelt cases, related cases,
the German,
had actually taken a lie detector test in which he was asked the question about. I don't know. This is a translated report in a Russian media that he had taken a lie detector test and that he passed the lie detector test. And that he denied having anything to do with the drug and Valieva. Again, I mean, that's something that it's 6 degrees of separation from knowing the exact situation.
We have the new quote from Shvetsky, who just reacted today to the CAS verdict. He says that it's extremely cruel. Kamila is I'm reading out. Sorry, Kamila is a unique athlete. She does not deserve this punishment. I hoped for a more objective decision. I hoped for everything to be more fair. But now we feel like we have the planned attack on, Russian sport. But I don't know. He mentioned some facts that were in favor of Kamila, but we don't know. Nobody actually explains what facts they're mentioning, what they're meaning. They just keep saying that there are facts pro Kamila. There were rumors today, actually, there was not a glass from the granddad as a part of Russian defense but policy, Russian defense, I don't know how to call that. Sorry, Russian lawyers. They said that there probably was not the glass. That's again a speculation, right? But there was a dessert which was cooked by Kamila's granddad, who was, taking that substance. So my guess is that Russian lawyers or Kamila's side of the criminal case was not giving the sound reasons why not giving her the maximum. And this is the reason why CAS decided to, throw a book at her. That's a very good phrase you mentioned.
What's really interesting here, for not knowing the Russian state of mind, is that we've had some incredibly high-profile athletes involved in doping, both Olympic athletes like Lance Armstrong and Marion Jones, professional baseball players, including 2 of the greatest home run hitters of all time. And our country never has any sense that this is an indictment of our country, and nobody gets up in arms and say, how can you do this to the United States of America? Whereas in Russia, the whole idea of national pride is much, much different, I guess.
I think that they view
it's considered to be unfair. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Dave, go on.
That term Russophobia gets thrown around a lot, but I don't think it's a Russophobia. I think we'd have to look at the fact of how has Shvetsky been treated or not treated. And when an athlete is caught doping in the United States, they're kind of thrown to the wolves, right? And I think that's very different in this case.
In any case,
thrown to the wolves.
United Airlines is not going to hold the flight for much as I would like them to
Thank
do
you
this.
so much. No, this is speak with you.
Have a safe flight home.
It's great to see you, Maya, again. Thank you for having me, Dave, and onward and upwards.
Onward and upward. This is certainly going to be interesting. Maya, I want to keep getting your reaction if we can. I would be curious what you make of, the leadership of the Russian Federation. Who is really in charge? Obviously, Anton Sikorelidze has been more in charge. But, so many Americans have tried to say, don't cover the Russians as much, don't cover the Russians as much. I've continued to do it because I thought that this day was coming and that them returning back and that we needed to know what's been happening behind the scenes. So what is, that power structure?
I don't know. Officially, Anton is not the official head. He is acting head of Russian Federation of Figure Skating. But I'm just reading. There's a news that came in that Russian Federation of Figure Skating would not give any official comments on the disqualification, on the verdict, as it is not side of the case, and it needs some time to analyze the verdict and then to give out their opinion. This is exactly what I mentioned. Hopefully, there will be no rush into, making emotional and even more emotional statements. Hopefully, they will think and then talk.
How about my friend Tatiana Anatolievna? I have several photos with her, and she, has commented on me several times and then claimed that she didn't recognize me in person. How is she reacting today, and what kind of a statement is she giving?
She said that it's a very sad story happening, and of course, she feels very sorry for Kamila. Kamila is still, under 18, and her career is over, and she was emotional, and she said that it's a very sad story. I can look for more quotes, but it will take some time.
I was talking with Igor Spielbaum the other day about his team, Zingis and Kolesnik, and I said, well, this Valieva case is going to be very interesting because, in my opinion, Diana and Gleb have, publicly stated to other training mates that they felt that they had to be with Kiliakov, that they didn't have other options because they were kind of personas non gratas. They liked the individual lessons that were given in the United States better than the group approach in Russia. But because of this situation with Valieva, they were not able to be with the highest level of coaches in the US who are coaching the medal-winning teams. How much do you think that this hurts their chances for future development if they continue to be, persona non grata and have to remain in their current situation?
I don't know.
I mean,
honestly, I don't.
Even Yekaterina Bobrova was talking about how poorly executed and designed that Swan Lake program is for a country that designed the ballet to have a figure skater with bent shoulders, rounded shoulders and bent knees and flexed feet. It was not a standard of the great Russian ballet, and almost.
No, the question is that I'm not sure that this particular ice dance team is the one to discuss in relation to what has happened today in Switzerland.
It impacts them. Camila's
case impacts all Russian figure skating, but again, they're now Team Georgia, and I don't know. I'm absolutely sure that it's possible that there will be new coaches offering them some help, but let's live until the end of the season.
I mean, they are about as Georgian as I am Canadian.
But she is half Georgian, that's for sure, right?
Quarter Georgian, right? Like, how Georgian is Eteri?
I don't know. I haven't seen her passport.
Where is Sergei Buyanov from? What is his ethnicity? Right?
No. Okay, I'm not ready. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to participate in this. Yes. This is speculation, right? I'm not ready to participate in that.
That's fine.
My question is that how this case affects Russian sport. Because if Russia is, I wouldn't say unbanned, but if neutral athletes are allowed back to the ice rinks, will they be treated worse? Will they be booed? We're not talking about the political and the Ukraine situation. We're talking about would they consider to be doping athletes? I wonder you read the Twitter, American Twitter. What is it all about? What was the reaction?
It's unclear at this time. Not everybody is ready to say that all of the Russians were doping. Not everybody is ready to say that. There are some that will cite Icarus. They will ask the questions. I would question if, I do think it's legitimate that, if, we don't do hair sampling, right? So we will never know the full truth of, blood and hair sampling with the athlete biological passport, I think is the right decision for all sports to move towards. In this case, we don't know about it. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we will never know was the entire team given the same things as Kamila? But I think much depends on how Russia responds. I would look at how does someone like Galyamov respond? He's someone that could be an Olympic champion.
He responded very,
but I don't just mean today. I mean,
dignity.
I don't just mean today. I mean in the coming months, right? I think a lot depends on, are the Russians still going to have commercials and ice shows where they announce their skaters as Olympic champions? We got it.
I don't think that.
But they have for the last 2 years, right? Until they've had a decision. I think a lot depends going forward.
But before today's verdict, they were Olympic champions, right? I mean, I'm trying to, defend another point of view.
First of all, I just want to say that I view you as providing analysis on Russian sports. I don't consider you in the position of having to defend them, any indecision of that I would have to defend U.S. figure skating and their results, because I certainly don't.
No, but the problem is that I know I read the comments on American Twitter that how come Kamila was competing for those 2 years? Officially, legally, she was not forced to quit the rank. She could do that. Was that a smart decision? I don't know. We discussed that in some previous shows with you, that probably it was better for her not to go insane. But I'm absolutely sure she's not participating in the Russian Grand Prix final, which is about to take place in 3 weeks. I'm sure she's not participating. She's not going there, because the ultimate, I hope that I'm right, the ultimate goal of Russian Federation of Figure Skating, Russian Ministry of Sport, Russian Olympic Committee is to come back to international arena, to big Olympic family, to participate. Because you can hold whatever games of friendship you're designed to have your own small national Olympics. You still need to be part of international sport, part of big picture, because your titles have to, they will value more. And it's a sad thing for some Russian athletes, because their career is almost over and they will not have a chance to compete, neither in Montreal nor in Boston, probably. We'll see that. But I hope that Russia behaves wisely and, again, swallows that pill.
I wanted to ask you, because you did cover politics for many years, and my understanding is that the situation within Russia is also changing rapidly. There are laws being passed for Russians that live outside of the US and things like that. How much pressure is on these Russian athletes to go along with whatever the federation decides in terms of their treatment?
They are 100% state funded. This is the short and a long answer. Don't expect any bold statements or sensational interviews. They train there, they live there, they feed off federation, they earn their money in the ice shows, which are also sponsored by state companies. And again, I will emphasize that again, you cannot just go and say, okay, now I'm independent ice skater. It doesn't work like that in Russia, not only in figure skating, but track, field, or whatever. Apart from tennis and hockey, probably, you dependent on state funding, on state support. And remember, this neutral status the IOC is talking about, probably the ISU would be starting talking about. We don't know the criteria. We don't know if it's the decision who goes and represent this neutral status is going to be made in Russia within the Federation of Figure Skating, or it's going to be, apply whoever decides you want to go. We don't know. We know nothing. So I have a feeling that everybody's trying to be cautious and not say things that they will be held accountable for. But we'll see. I see lots of human support for Kamila from the athletes, personal support, not like, oh, they all bastards and you're a great girl, but it's just, we feel so sorry for you. This is our support. To be honest, I think this is a right thing to do. And even I read the official statement of the US Federation of Figure Skating. They also mentioned Kamila as one of the parties that probably is, I wouldn't call it a victim, not again to be crucified in the comments, but definitely she's not the one who is responsible for everything that happened. And to be honest, again, if you ask my personal belief, I don't think that she took that substance deliberately, knowing what she's doing. There could be different options, different scenarios, but definitely I have to I ask you to bear in mind that it could be different scenarios.
I will give my opinion now, which is, I don't think I've ever fully said. I think that I do not believe that Kamila, and people have said, why are you attacking a 15-year-old girl? And I'm not attacking a 15-year-old girl. We have said all along, this is a state-sponsored system. They are paid by Russia. The doctor is paid by the Minister of Sport. The doctor isn't even from the Figure Skating Federation. The doctor comes from the Minister of Sport. The Minister of Sport reports to Vladimir Putin. At the end of the day, I believe that if Kamila was given a drug, it was by the state, and that if you have to investigate the state. So all of a sudden, when everyone says, why would a 15-year-old want to dope by herself? I don't think anyone is really arguing that. And I think that that is a psychological argument that's being used, and people are having a willing suspension of disbelief, because if this is a state-sponsored system, just like China, right? And no one was arguing in 2008 that those gymnasts changed their own ages. They were arguing that the Chinese government changed the ages of the Chinese girls that did the Olympics. So if that is the case, I believe that whatever was given to Kamila Valieva was done much above her. And if we're going to acknowledge that Russia is a state-sponsored system, how come we are not acknowledging that so is the doctor, and so is whatever drug that went into Kamila Valieva's system? And why are we treating her like an individual and making her take the fall when maybe it should be the Russian Federation that should be investigated? And that's my real opinion there.
I would agree with Phil that we have to wait until the longer documentation published on the case.
And Maya, when you read it, are you going to read it on your phone, or are you going to print it out and like lick the pages when you go through it with a highlighter? And like,
I will definitely not read it from my phone. I will
how about
print it out, but wait, from the news agency online, just to make it comfortable to read.
I mean, I am looking forward to reading it, Maya. And I have to say, you love ice dance as a reporter and as a fan more than anyone, right?
Yeah.
Your good friend.
I truly love ice dance.
Your good friends, Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates, world champions from the Montreal Ice.
My good friends, I'm not invited to the wedding.
You should be. Don't you want to go to that wedding? Look at
I'm a reporter on the other side of the bar in the mix zone. I'm going
to tell you why you should be at the wedding. Who designs Madison Chock's costumes with her?
Matthew Caron.
Is he going to design the wedding dress? And do you want to see the wedding dress?
I don't know. I'm just, at the moment, I just hope that they get better with that flu and nobody else gets sick and everybody gets better for the world. That's all I hope for. But okay, you called me a big fan of ice dance. You had a question in mind.
Yes. With the French coming back. And with
Let's wait until the official confirmation.
The official,
the announcement.
With the French potentially coming back, and Evan indicated that they competed at nationals because it may be their last nationals, and they are getting Olympic gold medals. Do you think that they may retire feeling that they have now fulfilled their careers, or do you expect them to go for an individual medal on the podium in 2026, even if that medal wouldn't be gold?
I think that the individual Olympic medal, means a lot. But at the same time, I listened to that press conference in Ohio and Columbus, and I have a feeling that if it's our last championship, this comment was mainly made because they felt sick and they were not sure. When you're sick, you really have doubts whether have energy enough to keep going. But it's Madison and Evan. They're fighters, and they have such a big motivation to go on. I wouldn't be surprised that they decide to stay and fight for that individual medal at the Olympics of 2026. But at this stage, I mean, anything can happen. They can say, okay, we're fine. There's a wedding on the way, and we have probably 2 world titles. We'll see that in March, and we now have the Olympic medal. But at the same time, the individual event definitely is valued more than the team event, right? We know that. And they have very good chances for the Olympic medal and to be on that podium and have their Olympic moment. Remember, this is what they missed. Madison Hubble had her Olympic moment. She was there on the podium. Nikita and Victoria had their Olympic moment, and Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates, they didn't. And I don't know, I still think that this can happen in Paris, I would not agree with Phil that, you know, that could happen in Paris, because if you have the ceremony at the Worlds, it's not that. It's not a truly Olympic moment they all deserve, probably, right? So I think that could happen in Paris or in Milano. Who knows?
I would, if I were their agent, if I were Tessa Virtue, who turned myself into a pitch woman for every brand, or an Evgenia Medvedeva, I would tell Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates that you give every interview about this gold medal, and you make sure that you are on TV and that everybody sees your face as much as possible, because they will follow you on Instagram. You pray that they do it in Paris at the opening ceremonies so that millions and millions of people see you on TV. You make sure that you are the first person to give the interview when they come to the cameras. And then for the next 2 years, you view it that you already have an Olympic gold medal, that everything is extra. You do not care if you are second to Papadakis and Cizeron, and you go and you build a brand. And I think that they have the potential to actually use this gold medal to become icons, and that they could grow.
So you think they're staying?
I think they need to stay. I think it's better business to stay. I think it's business for Papadakis and Cizeron to come back straight. I think it is more than just a love of skating. I think the same thing when Virtue and Moyer came back, that it was a calculated business decision, a strategic business decision. And if I were advising Chock and Bates, I would say to stay in, win 2 more national titles, become more famous, give interviews about what it was like to wait for the gold medal. You make yourself a martyr to the press, and that you are fighting forward for clean sport, and everybody will come behind you. And I think that that's what they should do, and that they will build brands for themselves. And I trust Madison, Chock.
But that would mean another like 2 more years of staying in sports and, you know, sacrificing and doing everything and throwing everything you have. I don't know.
What
I
else
would
do
be
they
happy
have
if
to
they
do?
stay.
What else do they have to do? I mean, kids, yes, but I think Gillis and Poirier should also stay in. There is an opening at the top. It will be hard with the Olympics being in Italy. There will be likely a push for that Italian dance team, but I think it will make.
So you think that nobody will retire after this season? None of the top teams?
I think that they should dig their claws in to the side.
Oh, you love that drama, right? You love that
So
drama.
do you, Maya. That's why we
No,
watch.
I think, to be honest, I think somebody will step down and retire after this World in Montreal.
What kind of character is that? What kind of Russian character is that to withdraw? We want them to fight harder. This is the cut. This is a.
They are not 20 anymore. I would be happy to see all of them again, but I don't think that all of those teams are staying for Milano. We'll see. We'll see.
What did our friend Evgeni Plushenko say? Because remember, Evgeni Plushenko awarded himself.
Actually, nothing. I'm
awarded
surprised,
himself.
but
He's been so behaved for 2 years since Valieva has had this scandal. He has been so behaved in the press after he was always fighting. Now he is being a very good boy. His wife is also behaving. It's so boring because, but if you notice, they are rising politically within the Russian figure skating, federation with Sofia Moraviova as he remains quiet. But I noticed
yes, this is directly linked, I would say.
Yes, he's getting much more power. Yes.
Yeah, I just read the news that ISU is going to publish a statement tomorrow about the consequences of the CAS decision to disqualify Kamila for 4 years. We'll see something tomorrow, probably. But so far, we see that it welcomes the CAS decision. But so far, I mean, I think we'll have something more tomorrow. We'll just have to stay on the news.
I think we'll have to stay in touch, Maya. This is going to be so fascinating. I mean, think of.
But to be honest, I'm so relieved that this is almost over, because I mean, it's a sad decision for Kamila. Again, let me emphasize that, but it's probably a tougher decision than it was expected. But at least there's a chance to turn the page and have a closure for somebody. I still hope that Russia and Russian officials, to wrap up this discussion, Russian officials behave wisely and think that what is at stake is the future of Russian sport. So unfortunately, I'm not their counselor, so.
Well, I'm curious because you do cover the Russian sport, and these figure skaters in the current situation are making, there are approximately 25, one agent told me about 25 skaters who are making about $1 million a year. Valieva being one of them. Do you think that this might make her even a bigger star within Russia and more beloved?
I don't know. Again, too many I don't knows, but definitely what I can say is what I can witness is that the focus has shifted, and it's not as big as it would have been 2 years ago, as it would have been 18 months ago. Of course, it's it's #1 news pretty much everywhere in news agencies and newspapers. But I think she would stay in some shows and she will keep earning money. But it depends whether she can find some not state-funded shows. It would be a beautiful story if she comes back after those 2 years, which are left in that disqualification verdict, and comes back stronger with her quads, because we know that she's capable of doing quads, even with her new body. That would be a beautiful Hollywood story, I would say.
And does Team Tutberidze have young talent to replenish? Petrosian did not win the jump tournament. Team Tutberidze is less dominant than they have been, although we have seen some quads from younger skaters. Do you have this sense?
Yeah, but they're 12. They're 12, and the new age limit is 17. So I don't know what happens in those 5 years. You have to maintain those quads, and what about the teenage, and the body changes and everything. But I don't know. It's good for Russian sport that it's other schools, other coach teams fighting for the medals already. But again, I wonder how it affects, the change of age limit, how it affects Russian female women figure skating. I hoped at the beginning that it would change the way girls are, prepared for the tournaments, but it doesn't look like a lot of change. We'll see.
Is this good news for Evgeni Plushenko as he tries to make the Angels of Plushenko more dominant than Team Tutberidze? Is this a feather in his cap?
Case of Evgeni Plushenko is very interesting because actually it's one of the few private ice skating academies in the country. Of course, they're getting funded for the Team Russia athletes, like Muravyova training at his academy, but it's not a state, sponsored or state rank. And I think that competition is good. Competition is good in business. Competition is good in sports, and it definitely keeps all the other coach teams awake, knowing that Plushenko is, preparing his stars to shine. I don't know. It's good for Russian sports, but.
How about Alyona Zhilina? I wanted to ask you, I saw a video of her doing a quad flip the other day. One, is she doing pairs or is she doing singles? Because there were
rumors that she would join, that she will go switch and join pairs. But I saw that quad toe and, everything can change.
Well, we do see that Angela Plushenko has Natalia Lyuk, the great ice dance coach, now on their staff for ice dance. Will they also move into pairs? And did you ever think Evgeni Plushenko would have ice dance at his academy?
I know he's ambitious.
Yes.
And having a school and now 2 ice rinks in his school, why not opening an ice dance division? It would be interesting. I'm sorry, Dave, we would have to wrap it up as well, because I have some things I have to do.
We have more to discuss. I'm covering U.S. national.
We have to, wait until and see how everything elaborates after February 7th, which is almost a 2-year, anniversary. We'll see, and it's going to be interesting, and we'll be looking very much forward about, to getting the information about how the medal is going to be awarded, what happens to the medals, right? So we'll see, and hopefully nothing unpleasant would happen.
Thank you so much for appearing as always, Maya.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. See you.